Hello and welcome to the Conservative Network. We recently had the opportunity to interview Congressman Robert Hurt, the representative from the Virginia 5th Congressional District. We met him in his Danville field office, and later we were able to interview him in his Washington, D.C. office, where he gave us a tour of his office, and we were able to meet some of his staff. I hope you'll enjoy what I like to call conservative up close. Congressman Hurt, it's a pleasure to interview you up close.
Thank you, Ron, very much for the opportunity to be with you.
Heritage Foundation recently ranked all of the House of Representatives from 0 to 100 on their ability and willingness to cut the budget. Of course, the Democrats, a lot of them were at 0 to 20%. There was one congressman who, in the state of Virginia, ranked 100%, and that was you. What do you think contributed to that, Ed, from your perspective?
Well, I think that the last election, obviously November 2nd, 2010, was a huge day. It was I think the voice of the American people expressed their concern about the future of this country, and I think it was driven by the concern about our spending, unsupportable spending that's going on in Washington, D.C. We borrow 40 cents of every dollar that's spent in Washington. The debt is huge. It's $14 trillion. It's almost exceeds what the national income for our country is, our gross domestic product. If you were to spread out that debt for every man, woman, and child in the United States, it'd be more than $45,000 per person. And I think there's this great concern. I think this last election captured that concern, and so. For me, as a new congressman sworn in January, I take that I take that perspective with me, and feel a part of that perspective, and believe that we have got to do everything we can to cut spending and reduce the debt, and certainly that acknowledgement of my the positions that I took during this first budget battle, I think reflect that, and that is that I understand that cutting is not easy, but it must be done for the sake of our children and grandchildren.
Okay, but cutting the budget will in some cases mean cutting benefits of people here in the 5th District. What do you say to people who are going to have their benefits cut?
Well, I think that you have to look at, there's certainly government programs that fall within the discretionary spending part of our budget, and then you have what are called entitlements, which include Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, which actually drives our spending in this country, and has been the reason that our deficit has gotten to the deficit and debt have become what they have. But as far as government programs that will be cut as a consequence of our actions, listen, we're spending $1.6 trillion we don't have. We've got to make tough choices for the sake of the future of this country, the very future. And what I say to folks who may be affected is that, unfortunately, the people that have been in Washington before now haven't been truthful. They've told you that we can afford government programs that we cannot. And so I feel like it's my obligation to be truthful to the people I represent and try to make the choices that will guarantee the future for our great country.
Okay. I know this was your first federal election, although you were a state senator before. But generally speaking, do you think the voters back home were more engaged this last time than in previous elections, and do you feel a higher level of accountability?
Absolutely. Everywhere we went, I ran into people who say, I've never been involved in an election before, but this has got to stop. And what was particularly interesting to me was there was so much input and interest from young people. As you know, in Lynchburg, Virginia, we had a wonderful outpouring of support among students who live in and around Lynchburg. Many of them attend Liberty University, but that was one of the biggest and most important aspects, I think, to our campaign was being able to harness that at our call center there in Lynchburg, and wow, it made a huge difference for us.
You're not only a congressman of Republicans or conservatives, but everyone in your district. What are the three main things your supporters back home and those who voted against you need to know right now?
Well, I think the first thing is that we are working very hard to reduce spending and reduce our debt in Washington. I mean, that is the number one issue, I think, facing this country. And I think that Democrats, Republicans, independents, folks of all political stripes understand that the current path is completely and totally unsustainable. I think everyone agrees with that. All you need is a calculator to figure it out. And those numbers don't lie. We're not going to be able to recover from this kind of deficit and debt without making serious changes in the way Washington spends money. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is job creation. I think everybody understands that the unemployment that exists in the 5th District and across this country is unacceptable. We have to, in Washington, adopt policies that promote job creation, and we have to do that in a framework of private sector job growth. I think most people would agree that it's the private sector that creates jobs, not the government. So when the government is enacting policies that kill jobs, when the government is enacting policies that make it more difficult for job creators to succeed, then that sets us back. And so I'm committed to reducing regulations, unnecessary regulations, and making it easier for those who create jobs to succeed. And then the third thing I would say, and I would say this particularly to those who did not support me, I am going to listen to the people that I represent, whether they're Republicans or Democrats or independents or whatever. I really do believe that my job is to reflect the values of the people that I represent, to make the best judgments on behalf of the people that I represent in our representative democracy. And so I think those are the three things that I would say.
Human interest. How has your family changed since the election?
Well, the election process was extremely demanding, and I think, as you know, the schedule was unlike anything that I'd ever been through. Certainly different than any election that I'd been through. I do think, though, that the election process made me a better candidate. The primary process, as well as the general election. Well, the primary process, I think, made me a better candidate for the general, and I think the general certainly got me prepared for the challenges that we now face in Washington. I think my family has been wonderful, and strong. They have been willing participants in all of it. In fact, Kathy and I, make all of our big decisions together. And there were probably times during the election that we both wondered what in the world we'd gotten ourselves into. But generally speaking, I think it's been good for us, and it's been there's a lot of there are, and I hate to use this word, but there are sacrifices the family necessarily makes in terms of time and so forth. But there are also wonderful opportunities for them to see things that a lot of folks don't get direct exposure to. And for example, I was very proud to have Charles, Clem, and John on the House floor when I was sworn in. Not everybody gets to do that, and so, but the idea that they were able to witness the transfer of power from Nancy Pelosi to John Boehner, and witness his taking the gavel and being sworn in this great election, it was humbling for me to be there. I'm not sure John, our youngest, who was 6 at the time, was as humbled as I was, but let's be clear, it's something that none of us will forget, and all of us will appreciate very much the privilege and the opportunity and the honor given to me to represent the people of the 5th District, and it's a great privilege and a great honor.
Well,
and let me say, if I could just say this, one of the things one of the first things that struck me when I first started our work in Congress was that before, when I was in the state Senate, I was always referred to as Mr. Hurt from Pennsylvania, and it was so nice, and it was just a little thing, but it was so nice to be referred to as Mr. Hurt from Virginia. A little change there, but one that means a lot because I'm proud to be a Virginian.
Well, we're proud to have you as a congressman.
Thank you,
and
Ron.
I thank you for your time.
Ron, thank you so much for what you're doing to get the word out to people about what's going on in Washington and how important it is for people to stay engaged at a local level, at a grassroots level, to make the difference that our country requires for us to see a brighter future. Ron, first of all, let me thank you for coming to Washington. It was good to see you back in the district last week.
Oh, great.
But I can tell you that there is nothing that I enjoy more than having folks from home come up and see what's going on in Washington. Obviously, we are facing a time of a tremendous challenge. I am focused, many of my colleagues are, on trying to get this deficit debt under control. And I think that we will do it, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. But as challenging as it is here, it is also a place that can be very inspiring when you visit places like the Capitol and you see the rotunda and you think about the history of this great country. And that's something that we should not forget in this very difficult time.
We'd like to give people a taste of what it's like to be in a congressman's office. I want people back home to see your office and to get a feel of, like, I've been there before.
Of course, as you know, we got the last draw at number 85 and the lots for choice of office, so we didn't actually get a choice. My colleagues chose, and we, I think, got the smallest office, but it's a very fine office, and like I said, this is our sort of our waiting area, and this is the front door. And one of the things that was inherited from the previous Congressman Perriello, and before that, Good, was a grandfather clock that was given to the people of the 5th District when Congressman Good was in Congress, and so that's something that we're proud to have in our office. We have a lot of this local artwork was done by these are actually scenes mainly from Chatham, but they're watercolors that were done by a guy named Preston Moses, who was editor of the Star Tribune for many years. In fact, gave me my first job selling papers on Main Street.
Really?
Yeah. So
really? So now his artwork rests in your congressional office.
Right. Very proud. It reminds me of Chatham.
So his family, I guess. Have they been up here to see the?
Well, I had these in when I was in Richmond, and Donnie Moses came by the office one time. I was proud to be able to show that.
That's great.
His father's work. So
that's wonderful. Yeah. Now, I've had some interaction with your staff, and they're what makes everything work.
That's right.
So when someone calls in, they usually talk to
Lauren.
Talk to Lauren.
Lauren is she is she is the gatekeeper, and she's also on the phone. So we don't want to discourage her
from doing her job.
And
we'll get her to wave later.
Our constituents, but she does a great job.
All right. We're gonna go back here. If you can walk back through there.
Yeah, and then we back behind. See, of course, we have this nice bookshelf that we're trying to populate with books, but we've got some great staff. We have this is Katie. She's from South Carolina, and she worked for Congressman before she came to work for us, and she's doing a great job. She helps me keep where I'm supposed to be at all times. So
and she
if anybody needs to know where I am, they can call her. And 9 times out of 10, she'll know where I am, right?
Right.
And she keeps people like me from taking up too much of your time.
That's what she does a very good job. And then this is Meg.
Hi.
And Meg is a law student, just finishing up her last year in law school, and she's from Charlottesville. So she's been helping us on an intern basis.
Okay.
And so she's doing a great job. And then Sean Brown is he is the man. He was wonderful during our campaign.
Yes, I've met him several times.
You may remember Sean.
Oh, I remember.
Charlottesville office. And,
yep.
But anyway, he is doing a great job for us, doing correspondence and doing some legislative policy stuff, and doing a great job for us. So
great.
Like you said, can't do any of this without good help.
As good as you are, you wouldn't be where you are without this.
That's exactly right.
All right.
A great job for the people in the 5th District.
All right. Now, there's someone hiding back here.
Yeah, she's very camera shy.
We're gonna break that right now.
Yeah, this is.
Oh, she left.
Yeah, that's Amanda's office. Amanda's our communications director, and then we've got my chief of staff, and legislative director and policy director, who are all in his back office over here. So,
all right.
And then we have Will Pace, who is under the Ham Sydney banner back there, and
hey,
Will also does work for us, sort of correspondence.
Okay.
And helps me out a lot.
All right. All right. Wait a minute.
This is Amanda.
Yeah.
After you're so nice and helping me get this thing going, and here I'm putting you on.
Yeah, we're glad you guys are up here, though.
That's good job.
Yeah. Thanks, John Brown.
Where to?
In your office.
That's John. He's wearing his Buzz Lightyear outfit. Yeah, and the rest of these are pictures of our boys. When she moved to Chatham in 1940, when she married my grandfather. You see the
Yeah.
You see who we're looking at there.
Yeah.
You do have to get on your knees to see it, but
This is the inner sanctum of the Virginia 5th Congressional District. And I don't know what, I don't want to get too much of that light in because it's going to make us look like silhouettes. In fact, right now we probably look like silhouettes. We can probably do hand puppets. I noticed the shots on the pictures on your wall.
right. Yep. We of course we all know the great patriots that came from the 5th District, and I'm very proud to represent, of course, Charlottesville, where Thomas Jefferson lived, and of course that's Thomas Jefferson there. And there's evidence of his work all over this Capitol, and it's very inspiring. In fact, when you come into the Capitol, there is an alcove outside the House of Representatives chamber that faces east, which is the front of the Capitol, and it, to me, has got to be probably the most prominent locations in the Capitol of honor, and it's got Thomas Jefferson standing out front, a beautiful statue of him. In fact, we're very lucky in Virginia, in as much as we have, while most states are given the honor of having 2 statues, we have 3.
Really?
One of them is, of course, Thomas Jefferson. Actually, there are 2 statues of him. One is the one I described, and the other one is in the rotunda. And then the second one is George Washington, and the third one is Robert E. Lee. And so we have that high honor of having 3 statues as opposed to 2, which every other state got.
A lot of work that we read about in the paper takes place in this room. And what takes place in this room actually makes headlines where we all live. Something that's been talked about is a continuing resolution about the budget. We, of course, are in a budget crisis since the Democrats failed to do their job last year. You did say something very interesting when you're talking about everything that we have accomplished pales the budget.
Right. Well, and what I'm speaking of certainly is the fact that over the hundreds of 200 years that our country's been in existence, obviously we have so much to be proud of. We have great challenges, but our history should be an inspiration. It is an inspiration to me. That's why I'm very proud to represent Thomas Jefferson's home in Monticello and Patrick Henry's grave at Red Hill. Of course, James Madison was the first congressman from the 5th District, and his home now is in the 7th District, unfortunately. But he of course, all 3 of those folks are a great inspiration to me. When I stop and think about what our founders faced, our challenges almost pale in comparison. But it is a significant battle that we fight, and it is for the very future of this country, and there's no question about it. We are $1.6 trillion in the red in terms of our deficits. We have $14 trillion in debt, and the last 2 years, there's no question, contributed mightily to this crisis.
Yes.
But with that said, it's important to remember that it's been Republicans and Democrats who over the last 10, 20 years have gotten us to this point. So with that said, I think it's important that we focus on that deficit, that $1.6 trillion figure, and I think that it's also important to remember that this challenge won't be easy. We have, of course, the House of Representatives, which was gained in the last election. We also have the Senate and the White House that we have to deal with, and they're, of course, controlled by the Democrats. And so while there has been some discussion, maybe even disagreement about how we get there, I do not in any way see a shrinking back from the commitment, the urgency to get this deficit under control. That is, to balance our budget and erase this $1.6 trillion deficit. Now, are we going to be able to do it in one budget cycle? No, we're not. Last year, the Democrats totally failed to adopt. And that's our first challenge, is funding the FY11 budget for the next 6 months. And of course, our original proposal was to cut $100 billion out of spending, which was significant. I think in FY12, you're going to start seeing us deal with what people call the big money. That is, the entitlement programs are going to have to be dealt with long term in order to truly balance this budget. One thing that people, I don't know, fully appreciate, but if you add Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and the debt and our debt payments, that is Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and our debt payments, that amounts to 60% of our budget, which is huge. And so what that also tells you is that we're not going to be able to balance our budget this year by just dealing with, by cuts to the government, by fraud, eliminating fraud, waste, and abuse. Another way to say that is you could eliminate all the federal employees. You could eliminate the entire federal workforce, and you'd still be $50 billion short of balancing our budget. So what does that tell you? It tells us, first of all, we are in a deep, deep hole, but we're going to have to dig day by day to get us out of it. And so I'm committed to doing that, and I'm just so glad that there's still so many people out in the countryside who are committed to it.
So you're saying that no matter what the House passes, it's not as easy as with stroke of a pen, Robert Hur goes up and says, I decided today we're going to balance the budget, and it gets balanced.
Yeah, I mean, this took years to get this way. And it's going to take some time to really to get it done. Not only because it is a tremendous amount of money, but it's also because of the political challenges. I mean, the Democrats are going to continue to fight us every step of the way. Every chance I get to cut spending in this town, I'm going to support that, and I have done that since I've been here in January. And
the Heritage Foundation
absolutely
ranked all of the congressmen, all 435 congressmen, on their determination to eliminate the debt. And out of the state of Virginia, there was only one congressman that got 100%. Some of them got zero, but there's only one congressman that got 100%. That was you.
That's right. That's right. And it was out of all 435. It was out of all 435 members, there were only 47 who
got 100%.
Who won that
An honor and distinction.
No one, very few people really want to see the government shut down. I mean, I think that would be that's not a good thing. But by the same token, and so if we get to that point, and I hope we don't, but if we get to that point, I think that the American people are going to expect that it be truly an issue of principle and the fact that the folks in Washington are not willing to cut enough. And so, like I said, I don't think that anybody wants to do it, and I hope that we don't do it. But if it happens, I think that it will be due not to anything that is done on the Republican side in the House. It's going to be done because the folks over the United States Senate refused to work on this problem. They refused to give us a budget in FY11 last year, along with the democratically held House. And since we have been here since January 5th, they have refused to put forth any proposal to fund the government for FY11. We're just talking about last year's budget. Think about what it's going to be like to deal with them for FY12, for next year's budget. And by the way, let me mention this, with respect to FY12, next year's budget, the president, his proposal, the Democrats' proposal, doesn't decrease spending. It increases. He increases spending. He doesn't decrease debt in this country. He increases it. The debt would double in the next 10 years under the president's FY12 proposal. And so there's a huge distance between the House Republicans' position and the Senate Democrats and the president.
Well, you have a lot of work to do, and I appreciate this time.
Well, thank you, Ron. Thank you so much for coming.